Fellow developers, writers, and everyone who loves game design.
Welcome to DLC Not Included, our weekly podcast where we discuss game development, the industry, and everything in between.
We are your hosts, Steele
and Teal. Glad you could join us.
So, interesting thing, Teal. Today we're attempting to broadcast into our Discord channel, and today is also the day that I corrected all of the errors on Spotify, iTunes, etc. that was just showing DLC Not Included and not the name of our topic.
Okay. Well, I hope everything is working out.
Technology is a wonderful thing. This is going to be sort of a companion to last week.
Okay, so, yes it is.
If you are listening, if you listened to last week's podcast, whether it be live or on Spotify, iTunes, etc., you'll know we talked about marketing your game, the idea of getting your game out to the consumer.
Right.
This one is sort of a companion to it. As usual, of course, if you're watching us on our live stream, do remember that you'll be asking questions at the end of the podcast. We'll be able to monitor those through the channel point system. But anyway, what are we going to talk about?
Today's topic is pitching your game.
Yeah. When we say pitching, we're talking about the whole thing, but we're going to specifically concentrate on the log line or elevator pitch and the vertical slice. After we get those two out of the way, we'll kind of give an overview of how to do a pitch in general. So let's give that elevator pitch definition.
Pitching, as defined by Oxford, our favorite go-to, is a succinct and persuasive sales pitch.
Right.
Also called a log line.
That's your elevator pitch, right.
Wikipedia further expands its definition by saying it's a short description of an idea, a product, or a company that explains the concept in a way that any listener can understand it in a short period of time. Exactly.
Let's define the other thing we're going to be concentrating on, which is the vertical slice.
Now, a vertical slice in general, it's a type of milestone, a benchmark, or a deadline with emphasis on demonstrating progress across all components of a project.
Right. The reason it's called a vertical slice, to kind of give an analogy, is think of everything related to your game as layered. So you have the layer of the features, you have the layer of the aesthetics of the world, the leveling system, the battle system, the dialogue mechanics, the user interface, all of that, all the little pieces that make your game. And then just think of it as you just take a knife and slice it right down the middle in a vertical line, right along those layers, and just cut out a small chunk.
Yeah.
That's why it's called a vertical slice.
Now, in the game industry, we want to specifically focus on what it means there. And vertical slice there means a portion of a game which acts as a proof of concept for stakeholders before they agree to fund the rest of it.
Right. So generally speaking, when you're building a game pitch, a sales pitch for your game, you need to have that log line, that elevator pitch to get attention. Then you have a whole bunch of stuff you do during the pitch meeting, and that includes showing off your vertical slice.
Yes.
So why is an elevator pitch so important?
Well, goodness, it's important because, first thing it does is it's going to force you to highlight the most important aspects of your game within a very short amount of time.
Yeah, it's 20 to 30 seconds. That's what you get. So you have to actually take what you know about your game and shrink it down to the lowest possible level, where it's just like the most succinct. So that you could, if you were in an elevator with somebody, give them that overview of your game so they would know exactly what your game is about.
You basically have going from floor to floor as your time frame.
Yeah.
So the shorter the better?
Right. Now, the cool thing is that the elevator pitch does something for the potential investor or publisher. It also implants a very specific image in their head of what the game is. If you give a very memorable elevator pitch, they're going to remember that part.
Yeah, they are.
They're going to remember that. And that has sort of a secondary effect. It sets you above everyone else.
Yeah, so they're going to remember what you said about your game.
Right. If you have a very powerful log line, a very powerful elevator pitch, that investor, that funder, that publisher is going to go, oh, I remember that guy. That's the guy whose game was like a cross between, Marvel's Avengers and 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Right.
Just pick something randomly there. What about the vertical slice?
Okay, the vertical slice is just as important as your elevator pitch, because the vertical slice is going to serve as your visual representation of what your game is about, what it can accomplish.
Right.
But you're doing that in the most succinct way possible.
Right. Don't ever think of your don't ever think of your vertical slice as this is a long play of what your game can do in all of its entirety. This is, in a short amount of time, 30 minutes or less, this is exactly what my game can do in its entirety.
Right.
Just concentrated down. It's kind of like saying this. When you have a powerful vertical slice, that's like you showing it and going, this right here. This is what my game will be. So the investor, the publisher, etc., will look at it and go, okay, so I've played X number of minutes. This is going to be how the game is, expanded out over however many hours with, of course, they know things like breathers and exhibition and world building. They know all that's going to be there.
Yeah.
But they need to know as much as possible in a short amount of time. Because it'll showcase how interesting, engaging, how fun your game is without needing a whole bunch of context and front loading. In fact, you never want to provide context or front loading.
Man, if you have to do that, that's not a vertical slice.
No.
Nuh-uh.
No, you're showing them, hey, this is my proof of concept with notes. Your elevator pitch and any pitch information prior to the vertical slice is all the front loading you get.
Yeah, that's it.
When you're in that meeting, up to and including showing them the vertical slice, which, by the way, the vertical slice doesn't have to be interactive. It should be. That's the best example, is if they play it. But it could technically be a video.
Yeah.
But it better be a video of in-game stuff and not pretty renderings you made in Blender. That's a lie. Never lie. And also, it does show something else, doesn't it?
It shows that you are not trying to pitch them vaporware. Yeah.
Right. You created something in an engine that is going to be using assets that you may or may not use. They all know vertical slices aren't the final product. They're going to get tweaked. Things are going to get refined. Everyone knows that. However, they're going to know that you've put in work.
Yeah.
You're not just pitching an idea, because no one cares about an idea.
No, because they want something that's actual.
They want a tangible, yeah. Now let's talk about constructing the perfect elevator pitch,
because that is what we're here for. This is it.
This is it.
Yeah.
The vertical slice, are the two things we're going to concentrate on the most. Now, I want to give an update, and this is in relation to conversations that I have had with members of our community, the Studio Blue community. There is a video made on the channel GDC by Brian Upton. He's a person who actually handles publishing. And it's called 30 Things I Hate About Your Game Pitch. He hits the high points on that. He really does. We will provide a link in the YouTube version of this.
You're right.
We'll provide a link. He hits a lot of the high points, but he's only one person, so we're going to have kind of a general strategy that goes along the ideas of avoiding the major pitfalls. Each publisher, each person is going to be different. If you pitch to person A, the things that piss them off are not going to be the same as person B.
Right.
So these are, all the prefacing is necessary. These are the guidelines to building a strong elevator pitch in general, and then you want to tweak them to the person you're delivering them to. Because delivering something to Brian Upton is going to be different than delivering something to Todd Howard.
That's right.
So
the very first thing you're going to do, which let's just dive right in, is research. Research. I cannot say that enough. Right. You need to know who you're pitching to. Okay? Is it a person? Is it an entire company? Maybe a board?
Right.
Is it an entire group?
Right.
You need to know.
Yeah,
and so you can tailor your pitch to your quote-unquote audience.
Right. You do not want to pitch an RPG to like a sports game company.
Yeah.
Or a phone game to a console publisher. I mean, make sure you understand, because if you pitch the wrong thing to the wrong person or wrong group of people, you've already lost. And you not only do you look and feel like a moron, but what if they catch you talking to someone else and they go behind your back and go, hey, people talk.
Yeah, they do.
I'm sorry. There's no way around it. People talk. Know your product.
And the next thing is please know your product.
Yeah, if you're going to pitch an FPS, a first-person shooter, know what makes FPSs fun.
And popular.
If you're going to try to get that license for a Marvel game, know everything about Marvel.
Yes.
You know, you would look like a fool going to a Disney exec, wanting to get that Marvel license, and you end up just talking about a DC character. Just ideas, just things. Don't do that.
Oops.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Please.
Know your team. That's the people who are going to help you make your game.
Definitely, you want to know and have all your team put together.
Right.
At least the core components of your team.
Right.
Okay.
They're not going to provide you with staff at all.
No.
They're not. And also, never pitch a game with something like, well, we're still looking for an animator. Don't. Just don't. If they think that you're not prepared to start making that game tomorrow, they're not going to call you back.
Exactly.
And then the comparison piece.
That's really important.
It is. Now, granted, there are some people who hate this, but this is something you need to have charged in your head. Find a very popular game, something that everyone would know, that your game is just similar enough that mentioning it will ring a bell. This should not be the only thing you're focusing on.
Of course not.
It's literally an aside to connect with something existing to something you're trying to pitch, because people always understand familiarity better. However, again, just to make sure that I'm very clear, do not make this the main focus of your elevator pitch.
No.
This is that aside at the end to help them connect dots that everything else may have left vague, or maybe they have a really good idea of your game, and then you give them that comparison, they're like, I know what he's doing.
That's exactly how you do it.
Yeah. And make sure it's something really popular, because if it's obscure or unknown, if you have to explain what it is, don't just
skip that.
Yeah, I'd rather see you do no comparison at all than compare your game to something that very few people have played.
Yeah. So once you've done all your research, then you're going to craft a 20 to 30 second pitch.
Right.
That's going to show the following stuff.
So let's take them one at a time.
Because you're going to put some stuff in there.
You are. So take notes. Developers, take notes.
Yes.
You want to make sure that the most core elements of your game experience are there.
Yes. Let's repeat that again. Yeah. The most core elements of your game's experience needs to be in your pitch.
So that is not my game is about this story. My game is about this character. My game starts here. Nobody wants to hear that during an elevator pitch. You got to titrate it down to its very core concept. I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and we're going to be building off of these for the next few minutes. So here we go. A story-driven interactive movie where every choice changes the ending.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
How about this one?
Okay.
A high adrenaline FPS in which the player controls the chemical makeup of every item in every level.
That sounds like a hell of a lot of fun. Here's another one for the books. A lighthearted RPG where any conversation can be ended at any time by punching the NPC in the face.
I like that one.
we joke about that one on stream all the time. But after you get that core concept, what's next?
Okay, the next thing is make sure you give a small splash of the game world.
Just a little bit.
Just a look.
Just a peek. Because, again, you don't want to start going into a dissertation as to how your game world is like Mario World or like Tamriel. You don't want to go into deep details of the color palette or the textures. That's stuff they're not going to want to know right now. You just want to splash a peek.
Yep.
Let's give a couple.
Okay, so here's one.
Okay.
A post-apocalyptic rainforest where humanity lives in the trees to avoid the horrors below.
There you go. Here's another one. A spaceship hovering precariously close to the event horizon of a black hole. That's going to conjure up some images and answer all sorts of questions.
Oh, yes, it is. Yeah. Oh, here's one.
Okay.
A cartoonishly stylized fantasy kingdom where everything and everyone is overly cute. Even the bad guys.
So each one of those gives a different image to work with.
Yes,
and
it does.
They're going to connect that to your core concept. Then you either want to round it off with one of two things. Either that comparison, if you have a very strong comparison that you can, something very popular.
Right.
Or an innovative hook. Something that's just, this is what sets my game apart from everyone else's.
Okay, so let me start off by doing a an example of the comparison bit. You could say, it's like Detroit Become Human, but in a but in a Tomb Raider atmosphere.
Right. Or you could say, here's something more innovative, okay? The main character is generated based on the player's PlayStation Network ID. That's
innovative.
There is no connection to anything else that's ever been made there, but it's an innovation. Okay, and let's go for one more that's kind of in the middle.
Kind of a blend one.
Yeah.
Okay, so think World of Final Fantasy, but with over-the-top cartoon violence.
There you go. Which is very World of Final Fantasy, but we're just ramping it up.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to take everything that we just talked about, and we are going to titrate those together, combine them with duct tape, and make them into elevator pitches.
Okay, right. So just to review, we're going to take the core element of your game experience, the small splash of your game world, and a comparison or innovative hook.
There you go.
Let's bring it all together.
Okay.
Using our 3 little stories here.
All right. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Sure. Okay, here we go.
All right, go for it.
My game is a story-driven interactive movie where every choice changes the ending. It takes place in a post-apocalyptic rainforest where humanity lives in the trees to avoid the horrors below. It's like Detroit Become Human, but in a Tomb Raider atmosphere.
So that is 20 to 30 seconds, and it tells you everything you need to know in order to, or am I even interested?
Exactly.
If I was a publisher, I would know right then and there, am I even interested?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on the second one.
Okay.
My game is a high adrenaline FPS in which the player controls the chemical makeup of every item in every level. It takes place in a spaceship hovering precariously close to the event horizon of a black hole, and the main character is generated based on the player's PlayStation Network ID.
There it is.
There it is. Now let's do the third one.
Okay, here's the third one. My game is a lighthearted RPG where any conversation can be ended by punching the NPC in the face. It takes place in a cartoonishly stylized fantasy kingdom where everything and everyone is overly cute, even the bad guys. Think World of Final Fantasy, but with the over-the-top cartoon violence.
So each one of those, whether they would actually draw the attention of a publisher or an investor or not, is a constructed elevator pitch. And if you do something like that, and then, of course, tweak, refine, get it ready based on who you're talking to.
Yes. Do that research.
You have a very good chance of accomplishing what the log line / elevator pitch is, and that's to catch their attention.
Yeah.
Because once you do all that, you're going to go and you're going to practice it, shorten it, tweak it, refine it, rewrite it again until it's 20 to 30 seconds. The shorter and more succinct, the better. Commit it to memory. Do not read it off of a cue card. Do not read it off the back of your hand.
Oh, my word. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Guys, don't do that.
It is, and I've been told this by actual literary agents, which is similar. It is better to give them the elevator pitch written on a card than it is to read off the card. And giving them a card with your elevator pitch is not a good idea.
No, it's not.
So commit it to memory.
Please commit it to memory.
Commit it to memory. Because that is going to be am I even interested in hearing what you have to say next? Or am I not even remotely interested in your game? And you'll know, 30 seconds. So now that we have that, let's talk about the other piece.
The vertical slice.
Yes.
We want to build a perfect vertical slice.
Delicious.
That is the companion to our perfect elevator pitch.
Right. So let's do that. Okay, so how would you, Teal, say that we should approach the vertical slice of a game?
Okay, you want to approach it like it's the pilot episode of a TV show.
It's absolutely true. Self-contained. It
should have your game story, the characters, the features, the gameplay. Tweak them or change them.
Right.
Depending upon your investor reaction.
Right. So, like a pilot of a TV show, it shows you pretty much everything you're going to get in that TV show. But you know that between the pilot and the actual series run, things may change a little bit. And that's okay. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. And your vertical slice does not have to be a part of the actual finished game.
Right.
Your vertical slice level never has to show up in the finished product.
In fact, in many cases, we advise you not to do that.
Right.
Because, again, you're doing this before you even alphaed the game.
Right. This is pre-alpha.
This is pre-alpha stage. So, you really don't want to try to integrate that vertical slice
Although
in.
you can totally take ideas from your vertical slice and put it into the actual game.
Oh, sure.
That's done all the time.
Yeah.
So it's okay. Think Bioshock Infinite, that video where Elizabeth was using her powers to combine all these things together, like junk from different dimensions, and you threw at the enemy. They ended up not doing that, but they did use the dimensional tears, the dimensional rifts, as one of the main features of the game. So it's important to know that your vertical slice shouldn't be in your game per se, but the ideas, 100%.
And lastly, make sure that your vertical slice gives a very clear indication of what the final game is going to be able to do, even if your final user experience is different.
Right. It's again, it's just the whole adage of take ideas, take inspiration, don't mimic. And it's okay if your final game does not look anything like your vertical slice, as long as the vertical slice gave the investor or publisher enough of idea of your vision that they can go, yes, we want to publish this, we want to fund this.
Right.
You're not lying. You're not going to give them the vertical slice of a sports game and then it turns into a puzzle game. That's not, no, we're not saying that.
No, we're not saying that.
But every single thing about that vertical slice does not have to be indicative of the final product. So let's talk about actually creating one.
Okay.
And it starts with writing.
Writing.
Like everything else does.
Yes, it does.
And what type of writing, honey? It starts with a list.
That's right. So make a list. Hopefully this is according to your GDD. Yes.
You should be doing that.
The dreaded GDD.
Make
you
sure
must
you're
be doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want to have on your list, you want to have your main characters. The absolutely most important ones. You want to have your main features. These are what the player is going to be using the most in your game. And you want to put down your main emotion. This is what you want your players to feel the most when they're playing your game.
Once you've done that, go ahead and draft, and I'm using air quotes here, a dream moment. That dream moment is how you're going to envision in your head what the vertical slice should feel like. What scenario would have every main character performing every main feature to draw out the main emotion?
Yeah.
Again, this doesn't ever have to be a part of the final game. In fact, most of the times it shouldn't be.
Most of the time it's not.
But you need to draft in your head this dream scenario where all of that's going to come together. And then you're going to tighten it. You're still writing. You haven't gotten in your engine.
No, you're still writing this out.
You're going to tighten up that dream moment over and over again until the gameplay offers little to no break between any exhibition or exposition of the features. So there, unless the player of your vertical slice pauses the game, they're going to go from, area here where they learn about the HUD mechanics, and they see how that works. Area here where they learn about like wall climbing.
Oh,
area here where they learn about jetpack mechanics, where it's constantly doing something and conveying an emotion of whether it be, high octane, I have to keep going because this place is about to explode, or deep mystery as I get closer and closer to trying to find the killer before he finishes his victim off. Things like that. There's no chance for the investor or publisher to pause. And there's a psychological reason why that's the case. Think of it like this. If the investor has time to pause your vertical slice, they have time to stop playing.
Yep. So you want to make sure that each of your segments of your vertical slice contains something, whether it's an obstacle, an enemy, a cliffhanger, that forces one of the features to be used.
Yeah. So there's no point where they don't know what to do. There's no point where they can stop and go, okay, so let's put this aside and let's talk for a bit. Or, hey, that was really cool. Here's my business card. No. You want them playing it from start to finish because you're not giving them a chance to stop. And that's without you saying a word, and we'll get down to that in a second. You hush while they play your vertical slice, unless they ask you a question.
Right.
So then you want to map it out.
Map it out on paper or on your tablet.
Yeah, just map it out. Does everyone have to map things out on graph paper? We highly, highly recommend it. A lot of people don't like to do that. It's optional, but we really would prefer.
It's organized.
Yeah, organization. Then you want to go into your engine of choice.
Yes.
And you want to generally be the engine you're going to use for the final product. So if it's going to be an RPG Maker game or an Unreal game, do it in RPG Maker or Unreal. It's going to be in Unity or Lumberjack or CryEngine, do it in one of those. Whatever engine your final product is going to be in, regardless of whatever, do your vertical slice in that engine.
Yeah. you want to design your level to be as aesthetically pleasing as possible.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay if the vertical slices level, if its look and its feel doesn't make it to the final game.
Right.
It's okay.
It's okay.
What you're doing is you're giving literally a slice of experience to the person.
Right.
That's playing your game.
That's it. And again, just to reiterate, you want to leave little to no time between any of those action moments.
Yeah.
Because, and here's the thing, think of it like this. When you're designing it, when you're putting things down in your engine, say, okay, the investor / publisher is always looking for a reason to stop playing. That's not actually true, but think of it like that. So
just think of it like that. That'll help guide you.
So between this hallway and this hallway, have something there that engages them so they don't feel like pausing and stopping.
Yeah.
Constantly. Stuff like that. Maybe you could, have an area here where there's an obstacle, but the obstacle is very easy because your partner says something.
Yeah.
So even though there's something that physically stops them as a player, the vertical slice pushes them forward just enough that they can go, okay, I know how to continue now. I want to see what happens next. You always want them wanting more.
Yes, that's the key.
Yeah, always. And even if your final product is one of those things where, hey, I want my player to think as much as possible, to critically problem solve as much as possible. I want my game to have Dark Souls level or Seiriko level difficulty. You don't want your vertical slice to be that way. You don't want it to be so that the publisher of your game can't finish a vertical slice. Even if you go, oh, well, it's meant to be very critical, problem-solving, murder mystery.
Guys, it goes without saying, a vertical slice is not a demo.
No, not by any stretch. Not by any stretch. Don't let them feel like you're sitting back smugly waiting for them to figure it out.
Yeah. Nope, that's not what this is about.
And keep that unplayed story exhibition for a minimum for all the reasons we just mentioned.
Yeah. Oh, and so with all that in mind, make sure you keep your final time limit under 30 minutes.
Yes.
Because the investor just doesn't have time to play more than that.
They don't.
In fact, I would keep it closer to 10 minutes.
It's a really good length of time. Especially for more story-driven games. If it's a high energy level FPS, you can probably even get away with less. But 10's kind of the sweet spot that the industry looks for and that we would recommend. Once you've created your vertical slice, play it dozens and dozens and dozens of times. Every time you do it, look for a way to tighten it up, look for a way to refine it, look for a way to make it better. And remember, if you take 10 minutes, someone's going to take 15 to 20. So you keep that in mind. They need to take no longer than 30, as close to 10 as possible.
Yeah.
So when you create your expertly created RPG dungeon with an awesome boss fight, and it takes you, it took me 20 minutes to beat it, I got this. It's going to take your investor at least 30. Shrink that sucker down.
Please shrink it down. Because again, the investor, the publisher, they have time constraints. Literally, you probably only have a 20-minute meeting with them. Pretty much. And half of that's going to be taken up with y'all chatting.
Right.
So this vertical slice needs to be as short as possible.
You need to leave them, when they finish the vertical slice, you need to leave them wanting more. They want to leave that area, stop playing that vertical slice, get off your laptop, etc., and go, okay, do you have any more? If they do that, if you could tell that they want to continue playing, you've got them.
You got it.
Now, there is a huge red comment we have to give, that people who create these don't realize that you can never do this when you're doing a vertical slice. It's okay during a demo. It's okay during a long play. It's okay during a stream of your game. Never do this.
When you showcase your vertical slice, never urge them to keep going or keep going yourself if you're playing it for them. If they stop or if they tell you to stop, just don't. Say, if you're saying something like, wait, just this one more thing, that's the kiss of death.
They, the investor / publisher, have complete control over the meeting.
Yes, they do.
Only thing you're doing is you are pitching them information. You are giving them something for them to base a financial decision off of. Yes, you want to wow them. Yes, you want to throw charisma. You want to throw your beautiful vertical slice and your fantastic, clever elevator pitch. You want to throw it all at them. You want to make them feel like they have no choice but to invest or publish your game. But make no mistake about it, it is their meeting. You're on their time. They are seeing hundreds of people this week.
Yes.
You don't get to dictate anything.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to go and we're going to kind of tie that together.
Let's bring it all together.
With some general advice on game pitch meetings. Because we could legit take forever talking about those meetings. They're going to vary from publisher to publisher, person to person. So there is no one roadmap that Teal and I can give you on exactly how to succeed in a game pitch meeting.
Right, but if you're doing your research, you'll have a pretty good idea of what you're walking into.
Yes. But here are some general guidelines. Okay, so bring everything you need.
Everything.
Yeah.
You want to bring your computer, your monitor, any projectors, your printouts, anything. Assume that all you're going to get is an empty room with maybe a table and a few chairs.
That's it. That's probably not the case. You're probably going to get a podium with a microphone. You're probably going to get a projector you can hook up your laptop to. Most of these companies, especially if it's at a place like E3 or their home office, they're going to have the AV necessary. But assume that it's not the case.
Oh my God, and know how to use it.
Yeah, please. Don't look incompetent.
Yeah. Have any videos that you show, have them be in multiple formats.
Right.
Just in case. Okay. You know, MOV, MP4, whatever.
Yeah. Let's say that you have, let's say amongst the many things you have is a thumb drive. And that thumb drive has videos of your game. Maybe it's the non-interactive vertical slice. If you have it in MP4 and they don't have the ability to show MP4, you're lost. Just use something like Handbrake or any video encoding software out there.
Yeah.
Multiple formats, all the main formats.
Please.
All of them.
You don't want to be caught.
No, you'd never.
And guys, never do a pitch on your cell phone unless, and I mean unless, every piece of equipment has died. I don't care if it's a cell phone game. Do not do your pitch on your cell phone.
It is unbelievably, I mean insanely unprofessional to put something up on your phone and hand it to them.
Yep.
Unless there is no other choice. And then they'll know there is no other choice.
Oh, yeah.
There was a power outage. The AV equipment got fried. You're in the storage room, right? You're in the mail room because, half the office got flooded. If they say, hey, look, all we can do is just talk to me about it and show me any printouts, and you go, well, I can show you a video on my phone. If they go, yeah, that'll be fine, then that's
then
okay.
you can do it. But again, this is their decision. This is their meeting. If they so choose to see it on your phone, great.
Yeah.
But please,
so
don't do it unless you...
Let's just give some general tips now.
Okay, good tips.
Good tips. So Teal mentioned 20 minutes. That is probably the case. However, we're going to say be prepared for 15 or less.
15 or less, yeah.
So you want to practice everything that we just talked about in that time frame, all of it.
Yeah.
Speaking of
practice in front of a mirror until you're sick of looking at yourself. Because practice makes perfect.
And the mirror is the absolute best way to practice public speaking in front of a few people, sales meetings, all of it.
You'll catch your facial expression.
Every last one.
Yep.
Speaking of faces, FaceTime is critical.
Yes.
Okay, so that means that you need to have them paying attention to you as much as humanly possible. If you're in a meeting room, whether it be at their home office or one of those soundproof meeting rooms at E3 or whatnot, you're probably in a lot better place than if you're at a bar.
Yeah.
Don't pitch at a bar. Ever.
Don't pitch in a bar. Don't pitch out in the big general floor.
Right.
Just, yeah.
So, you're just pitching to this guy, and then suddenly his pal over from EA shows up, and they're chatting a bit. He's like, hold on a second, da-da-da-da. And the next thing you know, hey, I'll talk to you later, and that kind of thing. And, you've just been dismissed. Now, having said that, some people want to be pitched at bars. If that's the kind of person when you're doing your research that they want you to buy them a drink and then talk about your game, bring a laptop, be ready to show them everything. But then you know what you're getting into.
Yeah.
You know what you're getting into.
Right.
Otherwise, always try to get some level of quietus, low distractions.
Low distractions.
Because that FaceTime is vital. Yeah.
And then when you're talking to them, be personable. Smile and shake their hands or fist bump or whatever is culturally appropriate, bowing. But you need to, you got maybe your first 5 seconds to make a good impression and establish a connection with them.
That's right. Look people in the eyes.
Yes.
Always look people in the eyes. If you're looking down and away from people, even if you're the kindest person in the world, it's going to look fake. It's going to look avoidance. It's a deep psychological thing that all humans have. When a person avoids eye contact, you automatically think they're hiding something. Or you're being disingenuous. So always look people in the eyes. That's another reason to practice in front of the mirror, isn't it?
Right.
Because you can stare at yourself. Stare into the windows of your own soul. Speaking of staring.
Okay, so if you're personable, you're looking people in the eyes, then you're projecting confidence. Be confident. That's key. Because honestly, you wouldn't have gotten asked to do a pitch.
Right.
If the person wasn't interested.
Absolutely.
So, yes, be confident.
Be confident. No one's going to ask you for a pitch if they don't care.
Yeah.
And speaking of caring, remember this. Keep this in the back of your head at all times. This is huge. They want you to succeed. They really do. However, they need you to show them that you can.
Yes.
And this is an absolute truth. This is with really every industry, but especially the game industry. When a publisher agrees to meet with you, they're like, let's see what fantastic thing this person can do for our company and for the game industry. I want this person to be the next game I publish.
Right.
But then you have to show them in this short amount of time that you are the person they want you to be.
Right.
And just
that's
remember
it.
that.
Yeah, that's the key.
There are very few people who want to see you fail in this industry who will actually talk to you. The ones who want to see you fail won't give you the time of day.
They won't. And you'll know who they are.
So what happens after, honey?
Okay, so after the pitch and the slice, well, you're going to answer questions about your game project quickly and succinctly.
Yes.
And with as little rambling as possible.
Yes.
Please stop talking when you give them the information. Just zip it, button the lip. Let them ask the questions. It really is a skill.
It really is.
Staying silent. Hardest thing to do.
For me, it's impossible.
Yeah, you keep wanting to jump in and say something.
But, I mean, that's the thing, though. That's why I don't handle pitches for Studio Blue. Teal handles the pitches because she can get in front of a group with a bunch of the stuff that we've put together, and she can pitch. You get me in front of someone, I'm going to blow it because I cannot shut up in comparison. So know that skill, too. Maybe if you're with your team of 10 people, even if you're the lead designer, maybe you're not the right person to pitch.
Exactly.
Maybe it's your lead writer or your lead artist who just is so much more personable and knows when to shut the F up. So think about that for a second.
And when, if they ask if you have questions, and all of you who've been through interview training, you know this, have questions. Ask them questions. Now, some safe questions can be about their preferred timelines, their marketing reach, distribution networks.
Right.
Those are some safe general questions to ask. But please ask a question.
Right. Even if it's, so what's next? Never, if they say, do you have any questions? And you say no, that makes you look really bad.
Yep.
You don't think about it, but as Teal said, interviewing for jobs, if you're interviewing for a job and someone says, do you have any questions for us? Never say no.
Yeah.
Never say no. It makes you look like you just don't care. You're just there for the paycheck.
And that's exactly the impression it conveys.
Yep.
So always have a question.
Yep.
If they ask you for something like a business plan or a timeline, you better have it right then and there. And this is all part of the preparation. What we said, bring all the materials you need. Bring your computer, your monitor, your projectors. Have your business plan with you. Have your timeline. Have your project timeline with you.
We have done a creator classroom on project management, and we should probably at some point do a podcast specifically about preparing business plans and timelines. Because whether you're talking to a publisher, an investor, or your own team, or a partner, it doesn't matter. If you don't have those organizational tools, you don't look like you're worth people's time.
Exactly.
So
yeah, make
Yeah.
sure you have that with you so you just give it to them.
yes.
Or quickly send it to them. Boop, there you go.
There you go. Oop, there it is.
All right. The next most important thing, after you've done this, you want to establish a timeline for following up. Make sure that you and they all know that we're going to contact you in 2 weeks, or call us the day after tomorrow. Both you and the investor have to be on the same page for a follow-up.
Yes.
And get that commitment.
If you haven't established a timeline and gotten that commitment, as Teal said, prior to leaving the room, you're probably never going to hear from them again.
Exactly. Get that commitment.
Even if the commitment is, I'll have my secretary contact you by the end of today. That does invite a follow-up, by the way. But even if it's that, have something. You never want them to go, thank you for your time, shake, shake, shake. Hey, good luck on your way back, blah, blah, blah. And then no, something.
It's got to be something. Yeah. Now, if they say, I'll contact you, or I'll have my assistant contact you, make sure you leave your contact info. Simple enough.
Right.
But in that instance, you don't follow up.
Right. Let me clarify what I said.
Clarify that, please.
Okay, so
because that can get a little confusing.
When I say if your guy says, hey, my secretary will contact you, your following up is when you leave, making sure the secretary has your contact info.
That's right.
It's not emailing or calling the secretary later. If they say, don't call us, we'll call you, don't call them. Don't, because that makes you look desperate. That makes you look you can't follow instructions. It's the same thing with the job interview. Yeah.
If you, and this is true, if you call an interviewer and they didn't invite you to call them and you're calling them, you're not following their instructions, and they are looking for people who follow instructions. Now, this is just an aside. I'm not saying that's the case all the time.
Right.
But in my experience, if someone says, I'll call you, then the ball is in their court. They will call you.
So to make sure we kind of bring it back to pitching,
right?
If they say, we'll contact you in 3 days, or we'll contact you in the next week, don't contact them. Now, if they say, we'll contact you in 3 days if we don't, give us an email, which generally speaking, you can actually say right then and there. So, publisher 1 will say, hey, we'll call you in 3 days. And you can say, hey, if I don't hear from you, do you want me to email you? You can say, how do I follow up? Then they could say, if they say don't. If they say, yeah, in 3 days, email me back. That's perfectly okay. You've created that bridge. But if they blanket say, don't call us, we'll call you, don't call them. Leave it alone. Let it lie. They may need to stew on it or meet on it for a couple of weeks. Who knows? But you don't want to look desperate. You don't want to look like you can't follow instructions.
Right. And if they want you to send them a business plan or a development plan or any other materials, have those things ready to send them no later than the following day.
Right.
Because if you go longer than a day or two, they've forgotten about you, you've lost, you obviously don't care enough to give it to them quickly. So, yeah.
Or they'll assume you don't have it and you have to make it, and anyone who's not prepared is not someone they want to do business with. That's just that preparation. Have it all ready.
It's all got to be ready.
Have it all ready. Now, here's the thing. You're going to go through a ton of rejections. Just a bunch.
It's just like querying. It's just like interviewing. It's like anything.
Yeah.
If you're just going to get a bunch of rejections.
You are.
Before someone will agree.
Unless you're really, really lucky.
Oh, you could be. Yeah.
Which is possible. You're going to go through, I'm pulling a number out of my butt, 100 rejections before you get that one acceptance. But it's that one acceptance that matters. And like any entertainment industry, like movies, like books, once you get your foot in the door and you get that first acceptance, it's going to be a whole hell of a lot easier after that.
Yes, it will be, yes.
Because then, hey, you'll have published a game through this company. You'll have, received funding from this big corporation to make this game.
Yeah.
Oh, you're the guy that made game X.
Or, oh, this investor, we know him. He likes to fund really interesting projects. Oh, he funded your project? Well, let's take a look at it.
Boom. So, like every industry, persistence is the key. And once you're in, you're in. So, get yourself in. All right, so now it's time for us to take questions from our live audience.
Now remember, if you've been watching, use the podcast question feature in our chat to get your question up.
There you go. We'll see it pop up on our board here, and we already have questions waiting for us.
Awesome.
So let's start with the first one by Kioya.
Okay. Kioya asks, how would a vertical slice work for a game with multiple core mechanics, like a vertical slice of Persona 5? Would that just be the dungeon crawling or the battling, leaving out the social simulation? You couldn't really showcase all of what Persona 5 is about in 10 minutes, could you?
Okay, Kioya, you just fell right into the trap. You're trying to craft a vertical slice based on a finished product.
Yeah.
Do not do that. A vertical slice of Persona 5 would be those mechanics all put into a single experience. It could be, for example, being in the high school, maybe a classroom of the high school, having a moment where you're being lectured to and you answer a question, then class is dismissed, and then, hey, we need to deal with this thing. You talk to a few people, you actually answer a couple of questions or have an interaction or two with one of your classmates, like Ryuji or An, and you build up your social link, then you go into a dungeon, something like that. Do not think of the vertical slice as a slice of the final product.
Yeah.
It's a slice of all the things you want your game to do. So, yes, you absolutely could do. I'm not going to sit here and make some kind of a braggy challenge, but I can think of a dozen ways you could make Persona 5's vertical slice in 10 minutes. It's just, what do you as the developer want to really focus on?
Yeah.
So, and that would actually be a good exercise. Maybe we should do that as a contest.
That'd be kind of interesting.
A vertical slice game jam where you have to choose a really complex game and make a VS for it. It has to be 10 minutes or less. Very good question, Kid.
That's a very good question.
Very good question. And it's just, as you as the player, you as the developer have to switch your mind from final product to VS.
Yeah.
All right, what is our next one?
This is from Rack. He asks, what if my game technology doesn't exist on conventional devices, such as a mobile-only capability? An example of Pokemon Go with GPS data. One example I can think of is if your game uses cellular data and core mechanics.
So earlier, Rack, very good question, by the way.
Yeah.
We said interactive is your absolute best desire. That is the absolute best. But it may not be possible, and if that's the case, a non-interactive one. Or a simulation of those interactive pieces.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you could have your vertical slice simulate use on a phone and simulate GPS data. Maybe you go ahead and you pull down the GPS or the geocodes of the area that you're pitching in.
Yeah,
like
research.
You're in Richmond, Virginia. So you're going to pull down the geocodes of Richmond, Virginia, and you're going to have them play this vertical slice that simulates it. They'll understand it, especially when you're, giving your whole pitch and you're letting them know that's how this works. They're not dumb. They'll know that.
Yeah.
They're in the industry to know these things. Or if you can't do that, if that's something that you don't have the technological know-how to do, that's when you would create a non-interactive vertical slice that would show someone playing, how it would play out if it was real. It's still a slice, but you're not allowing them to play it. They're just watching it. So you have to, of course, gauge, is this something I can physically do with the technology that, I'm going to be presenting on? If not, then I have to give them something else to show them what it will be like as close as humanly possible.
Right.
Do not use pre-renders. Do not lie. Show them what it will be any way you can. That was a very good question, too.
Yeah, it really was.
Let's wait another minute to see if any other questions pop up or any follow-ups to those. We always have a fantastic audience asking amazing questions. Yeah. This is right here. Pitching your game and marketing your game are two of those things where you're constantly going to be learning how to do it your entire career.
And honestly, it's something that it's a skill set that can benefit you not just in this industry, but in different areas of life.
100%.
Just when you're talking to people, it's also networking. It's also a good networking opportunity.
It really is.
As well.
It is, because even if you don't make investor A, maybe investor A and investor B know each other, and they have lunch. And investor B says, I'm really looking for that geocoding Pokemon Go style game. Investor A go, wait, I had a guy talking to me in just the other day. it's not a game that I'm interested in, but maybe you will. And then if he gives your contact info.
Exactly.
And then investor B calls you up and says, hey, let's see what you got.
So absolutely.
Yeah.
It can open up some networking opportunities.
It really can. I do want to say, I do want to go back to the whole concept of teams. Okay. I myself have a habit of rambling. So I handle a lot of that with Teal.
Right.
However, I'm the extrovert and I love talking with people. So I handle the networking aspect.
Yeah.
So maybe it's a good idea when you start to create your team, figure out where people's social strengths and weaknesses are, as well as their development strengths and weaknesses.
That's a good idea, especially for you devs who would like to build a studio.
Yeah.
This is perfect. Bring together people with different strengths so that you all work together and you march forward and your studio will ultimately succeed.
Yeah, the more that you have people who you can work simpatico with and have complementary strengths and weaknesses, the more success you're going to have and the quicker you're going to have it.
Yeah.
We have a follow-up.
Oh, cool. Okay, follow-up question from Rack. What are ways to practice pitching, such as you aren't finished with your game yet but want to practice it?
Okay, I think I understand what Rack is asking. If you're saying you're still building your vertical slice and the pieces that you're going to pitch, how do you practice?
Yeah.
Well, the mirror thing is absolutely the best. Like, there is nothing better as far as sales pitching than looking at yourself in the mirror. Pay attention to your facial tics. Pay attention to how often you don't look at yourself in the eyes. Pay attention to your body language. You communicate more non-verbally as a human being than you do verbally.
Yeah.
Watch that. Pay attention. That means kind of take all of that nervousness of, oh, I've got to make this work if my game's going to succeed, and put it aside for a second. The moments that you're spending in front of a mirror practicing your pitch, the moments that you're practicing your pitch to your friends or your partners, those aren't moments you're being graded. Those aren't moments in which your success or failure hinge on the next word. These are moments where you can really analyze yourself, SWOT yourself, #SWOT yourself. But you can really do that.
Yeah.
And then keep practicing. So now practicing a vertical slice. Okay. That is, again, different than the development side. If you haven't gotten to the point where your proof of concept is written out, you're not ready for a vertical slice. You're not.
Yeah.
If you haven't gotten to the point where you know all the features and all the pieces and parts, et cetera, you're not ready to make a vertical slice. You're not ready to pitch. Here's when you're ready to pitch. When you have all of the pieces, parts put together so that you can create your vertical slice. When you know exactly how to titrate down your entire game into 20 seconds. And when you have the printouts and presentation material necessary to go pitch.
Yeah.
You are not ready to pitch until then.
There it is. Yeah.
Okay, I think we have another one.
Oh, we do. This is from Kioya.
All right.
Should you have 2 log lines, one for mechanics and one for story? Especially if it's an RPG where the story is half of the experience.
Absolutely not.
No.
One log line.
One
Log line. It's the core elements that are the most important. What is it that makes your game? If you're going back and forth, well, my game is half story, half mechanics, you're not thinking hard enough. You're not analyzing what your game truly is enough. One log line. Now, do you create multiple log lines for different publishers? Absolutely. You want to customize your log line, your elevator pitch, just like you want to customize your whole sales pitch, your whole game pitch, to whoever your publisher or investor is. But there's never one for mechanics, one for story, one for characters, one for graphics. It's all one log line.
It's one log line.
You get 20 to 30 seconds. That's about 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Make it work. And that's hard. I've actually been to entire workshops on creating book elevator pitches, manuscript. It's just crazy. The amount of work that you can go into for an elevator pitch goes well beyond one podcast, goes well beyond one afternoon. You're not going to sit there, get up and go, oh, I got my meeting in 20 minutes. Let me go ahead and make my elevator pitch. Nope. That's way too late. You're going to spend a lot of time making that perfect 20 to 30 seconds. And it's work.
Oh, yeah, it's work. It's work.
It's work.
But it's worth it when you finally get it down and get it right.
And then that investor calls back and says, okay, so we're going to go ahead and publish your game. We're going to give you $100,000 to work with, et cetera, et cetera. Please watch that video from Upton on GDC.
Yeah, do that.
Watch that, because you don't want to do things like tell them how much your game is going to make. You have no idea how much your game is going to make. You have no idea how much your game is going to cost.
Yeah.
Keep that shit out of there. One of the reasons why we talk about that particular video ahead of time is because we could go into an entire podcast talking about that video. It's a very good video.
Yeah.
In fact, if anyone in our live audience has access to that link, go ahead and pop it up to the live audience. And those who are watching this on YouTube, you'll see it in the descriptions.
Yeah.
All right. I think we are good. I don't see any more questions. Teal, any final thoughts on your end about this?
Just that I just have one thought, and that is when you are in a scenario of, let's just say you're at a convention, a trade show, and there are people there that you want to pitch to. Read the room, find your opportunity.
Yes.
Make your opportunity.
Yes, yes.
There's a certain finesse about meeting someone and forcing yourself upon someone.
You're talking about the approach.
Yes.
Yeah, the approach it's different. It takes time to get right. I think Teal put it best, without going into a massively long dissertation. It's reading the room, watching the person you want to approach, and seeing when they're available, looking for breaks in the conversation. That's why, although try not to do your full sales pitch at a bar, it's not a bad idea to buy that publisher a drink. They know you're going to pitch them, but they also know that you're trying to be personable. And, gosh, we could do an entire podcast on this, but just talk to people.
Just talk to folks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
kind of about networking too. So
if you can spend 10 to 30 minutes of conversation with someone, just chatting with them, and they get to know you, and they're like, okay, it's a cool guy, he's chill. And then you go, hey, by the way, I'm working on something. Yeah, they knew it was going to happen, but hey, they just spent time talking to you. You're a person. You're not someone who's going to throw an idea in their face and say, give me money. I guess take the networking podcast, the marketing podcast, and then podcast and smoosh them together.
Smoosh them all together, and then, success.
How not to fart it up.
Yeah.
All right, so this was good.
This was good. I thought this was a really good one.
This was a good one
to present to everyone, because pitching is absolutely integral to getting your foot in the door.
Let us know what you guys think so far about DLC Not Included.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think about us. We try to be a little more formal here than we do during our streams. We sometimes talk over each other. We sometimes flarp in our banter. But, I mean, is the information getting across? Are we getting across? Let us know how you think, because as we kind of move on through Season 1 and then coast into Season 2, we want to make sure you give all of you, whether you're listening to us live or iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, etc., the best possible experience.
Yeah.
So, as we always say, join us next time on DLC Not Included. And remember,
anyone can give you the key, but you have to go through the door.